Hi, folks. It's great to be back with you again. I think I will continue saying I have never worked so hard as I have in the past 2 weeks, doing the best we can to help a lot of people and take care of our own company and get all the information we can possibly build some cool things to help you guys uh, make some good decisions and manage your business. Um, I am very excited to have April McDaniel with us. April and I have been kind of going back and forth on the SBA loans and the CARES Act and all the options. And I think both of us have been watching discussion groups and people that are calm, people that are freaking out, people that don't like the loan, people that don't like the interest, people that don't like anything, and people that are just trying to figure out how do you get your business from where we are today to when all of us can go back to work in our place of business. So April, welcome, and show everyone your beard. You practiced before because you're the only one without facial hair. There you go. See, you look like one of the guys.
All my life, that's what I've been doing, trying to be
That's
like
great.
the guys.
All right, so let's begin with, you want to start with the payroll protection program, or do you want to say a few words before we even get into that one?
Well, maybe I should just, I think most people know who I am. April McDaniel with Kopsa Otte. Strategies we're one of their biggest fans, I'm sure too, just like maybe we are of theirs. So Kopsa Otte has been around a really long time in this industry. We are excited to be a part of this. We are going through it right with you. I would say at a minimum, 50% of our salons are already closed. Coming soon, I'm sure we'll be closer to 80 to 100%, just because it seems to be moving across the country. So, we're right here with you, and we're learning these things, like Neil said, just trying to stay up to date. Things are changing. Even up till 5 minutes ago, we're getting new information. We'll do our best to give you what we know and answer your questions. And keep in mind that it's really important right now that you have a great relationship with your tax accountant. And I realize that might not be Kopsa Otte, and that's okay. I'm not on here to sell Kopsa Otte services. I'm on here to teach you and educate you and help you through this situation. But make sure you're having good conversations with your tax accountant and with your banker. Right now is the time to call on those relationships. You're going to need them. So, pleasure's mine.
All right. The one really interesting opportunity for funding is it came out of the signing of the CARES Act last week, started to materialize over the weekend, and man, it's been misconceptions, misunderstood. We took a whole discussion group down on our idea exchange because it was just going all over the place. And we feel it's best to let's make sure everyone really understands it. So being that that's a very interesting one and really geared towards keeping paychecks going, let's talk about the Paycheck Protection Program and how that works and draw that distinction between Paycheck Protection Program and the SBA Disaster Loan and the other fine loan opportunities that are out there.
Sure. So, so the Paycheck Protection Loan is the one that was just offered in this phase 3 or the CARES Act. It's probably going to be the most popular, I would say, because if spent correctly on payroll, rent, utilities, and interest, you're going to have the ability to have that loan forgiven. So this is a loan that you will apply for through your local banker. I would encourage you to get in touch with them right away. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of business right now. Those that are already approved through the SBA will be the ones that probably can do it quicker for you. But this is an opportunity for you to take a forgivable loan out for 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And there's some math that has to happen there, so you'll probably want to get your accountant involved to do that. But it really is a great opportunity, I think, to be able to help you cover payroll expenses during this time.
Yeah, one of the things that just came out on the SBA site, I didn't look at it for a few days, and you come back and it's all different, but they've said that banks will be able to start processing the loans April 3rd, which
Hmm.
is tomorrow.
No,
Uh,
that would be Friday.
April 3rd. Oh, today's the 1st, right? Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Today's the 1st. April Fools.
April Fool's Day.
And it is Tuesday, right?
Oh,
Or it's
it's
so hard with
Wednesday.
this. It's yeah, it's Wednesday. Okay. So yeah, April 3rd, April 3rd is when they'll be able to start processing loans. And it's taken some time for SBA to get the necessary information to all of the participating banks so they know what the heck to do to
Hmm.
begin taking data and processing the loans.
Hmm. My
And
understanding, oh, go ahead.
one piece that came up on the SBA site that is going to be a big factor in how salon spa owners get involved in this, if they choose this particular one, is that 75% to be forgivable, 75% of the loan must be used for payroll. You can use the other 25% for rent, utilities, paying healthcare plan, whatever it is you need to pay. But 75% of that loan is going to need to be used for payroll in order for it to be fully forgiven.
I think one of the other things that's important in that calculation of 2.5 times is that if you have somebody that makes over $100,000, it is limited. So when you calculate that, if you were to take that and divide it by 52 weeks, it's $1,923 a week, roughly. And my understanding is that you have to annualize that. So you'll have to talk to your accountant to see how they decipher that or how they interpret it. But they're capping it out at that. So if it's, 2.5 times monthly payroll, you have to keep in mind if you have some folks that are making over that dollar amount, you do have to limit it. The other thing is that, it's not, there's not a bad rate attached to it if for some reason you don't get it forgiven. If something happens and you end up having to use the cash for something else, the rate's 4%. That's not a bad rate.
No,
I don't think. I don't know, Neil, what do you think?
I think 4% is fine. Uh, and, and gosh, I've read so many of these things. There's no payments for 6 months,
Right?
I believe, once you get the loan.
Hmm.
So that should be more than enough time to get the doors open. You presented just before we went on the air, we were discussing the payroll protection program, and you gave a pretty interesting strategy on how to
Hmm.
use it. And why don't you share that with people?
So let me caveat it with I haven't gotten a legal opinion of whether I can do this or not. So, but or whether you can do this. So it'd be a conversation I think to have with your professional. But I was thinking through this about with a client that all of their employees are on unemployment, and the majority of our clients, that's the current
Hmm.
situation. The employees are on unemployment, and they're just waiting for the day that they can bring them back. And so my thought was, and this is like I said, a conversation to have with that banker. When you read the PPL loan or the Paycheck Protection Plan loan, it says you have to spend that money within 8 weeks. So there's an 8-week window from when you accept the funds that you have to spend it in that fashion. So what if you allowed folks to stay on unemployment for the time being till you get closer to when you might be able to come back to work so that you could use these PPL funds or PPP funds to cover those expenses once they're back. And I'm not sure if that works. I'm not completely convinced it works, but I think it is something to think about. Within phase 3, the federal government is going to be giving your state governments more money to cover unemployment. So that means people are supposed to be getting an additional, I believe they said $600 a week. So we'll see how that works. Again, I haven't seen that finalized. So, is there a strategy in going ahead and applying for that Paycheck Protection Loan so that you have it, so that's available, and asking your banker if it's possible to hold off on accepting the funds so that you can strategize on when the best time is to take receipt of those funds in order to pay those expenses. Obviously you throw that out the window if you need the money now. If you need the money now, you absolutely have to just do what you have to do. But, if we can stay calm and think about how, I know you guys are all good business people. If you're strategies clients, you're good business people. So, think about that. Think about, is there a way to strategize using these funds for the best purpose? And like I said, it was just kind of a thought that I had, and I'm not sure if it works, but definitely something I'm going to be talking to our folks about at Kopsa Otte. So,
Well, it sure would. It sure would address the situation that you finally bring people back and to have the funds to cover payroll. And listen, salon spas may be slammed when the doors open. They may be slammed for a short period of time, and then it's going to hit a lull. Remember, they're anticipating 33% unemployment. So spendable income may be stretched, and that may include salon spa services. But if you take that money just before opening and knowing that you've got 8 weeks to fund payroll, and 75% of that gets used for payroll, it's going to get forgiven. So that's a sweet deal. One of the things that is interesting about the payroll protection program, and where it differentiates from the SBA Disaster Loan, is that the amount of money you're applying for, because it's based on, I think they're taking 2019 average monthly payroll times 2.5 times. And that's going to tell you how much you're going to get in that particular program. If you apply for the disaster loan, you can't put an amount in. So they have their own calculations on to determine what they're going to give you. So, Michael, do we have any questions on the payroll protection?
Oh, there's a lot of questions, all of which are kind of centered around, again, I think a lot of them are, to be honest, I think a lot of, there are just so many unknowns right now. I'm going to try and send, there's a great article I read earlier today that, again, kind of hot off the press in the Washington Post. So I think, honestly, you'll have as easy a time accessing it as I would just by going Washington Post Payroll Protection Program. There's a great article in there. And even in that article, what they say is there are still more questions in a lot of ways around these things than answers. And so what's happening in the chat is simply this, like, well, do I have to go off unemployment? Is this meant to go off unemployment? What about if I'm a sole proprietor? What about if I have, does this apply to, commissioned employees? What about if you have booth rental employees? What about, there's all that kind of going on, a lot of what ifs. And I don't know if any of those, I'll try and go through now and kind of pick out maybe a couple of highlights. I think one of the things that it probably, I don't know if we have any answer to this or not, is to go back, and I'm not sure, I know, Neil, you were talking about, and April, you both talking about it, but do you have a sense from the way you interpret it around those that are already utilizing unemployment and maybe they already have their people signed up for unemployment, and how this may impact that, or is it a replacement for it? And so I'll kind of leave it there, and I'm going to go
Yeah.
back into the chat and maybe pick out a couple other things around this, because there is a lot of discussion around this. So I'll leave it at that for right now.
So clearly the effort through the Paycheck Protection Loan is to get people back to work. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But it doesn't indicate, from what I've seen, that you have to do it right now. And so if you were to apply for that loan, take those proceeds, bring those people back to work, and start paying them so that you would be able to get the forgiveness through the Paycheck Protection Loan, then of course they have to report that as wages, and that would impact their unemployment. So you also had a question about the sole proprietors. Sole proprietors can also apply for this loan. So can independent contractors. And the calculation, I'm sure, will be a little bit different. I have not seen the formal calculation on that, but your banker will know that. And let's see, what was the other question? Neil, you want to help me out?
I think it was about bringing employees back in, or paying employees and getting them off unemployment. I think the easiest way and the safest way for owners to approach this is, if your employees are filing for unemployment or have filed for unemployment, and from everything we've heard, unemployment's running a couple of weeks behind, but it'll catch up. They should stay on unemployment, because you have to hold on to every dollar you possibly have to fund your reopening. So if you do the payroll protection, again, the nice thing about it is, if your payroll's $50,000 a month, gross payroll's $50,000 a month, 2.5 times is 150,000. You'll get 150,000. Now, if you need that for a combination of things, some for payroll, but not 75% of that for payroll, you can use that. Just understand you're going to have a loan that you're going to have to, it'll convert to a loan in 6 months. And I believe it's 2 years to pay off, correct? I've seen more, but I think it's 2 years that you have to pay it off, or you can convert it into something after. But don't take the funds, take your people off unemployment, and not be able to open your salon or spa. You'd be better off seeing if you can do what April suggested, and that's qualify for the loan, and you should have a period of time where you can make a decision, but wait until you see that window of when you're going to be permitted to open your business, and then get the funds and know that you can fund payroll through a forgivable loan. I think that is the best strategy and the best part of the payroll protection. It's meant to give a company money, small business, and fund payroll, get people back to work. So if you can hold off on it, do that.
A couple things just to jump in, a couple things, and I'm going to kind of look over here with some stuff that's coming through. A couple things to know is and this is from what I know that we have read and that we see that's been published so far. So I'm going to take it again from sources that I believe to be reliable, directly from the SBA site, which obviously we would expect the fact they're going to post accurate information, or even a source such as the Washington Post with what they've done today. And I did see that I believe Eric threw that post in the chat stream, so you can scroll up to find that. That's a good one. What we do know is with this payroll protection program, it seems to read that this is, and Neil said it, this is a 2-year. If it turns into a loan, this is a 2-year maturity. And the interest rate from what is said with that is 0.5%. So the interest is negligible when it comes to that aspect of it. So that's what's been in print at this point. Now,
yeah, the SBA has 0.5%.
Yeah, So, you know, you've got, it's not going to get much better than that. So let me go through a few questions that have started to kind of pop up that seem to be kind of a common theme. The idea, and I think it just is good to say at this point, you know, we're talking about a loan that says forgivable. So, you know, when we're talking about that, that means that there is not a repayment on that. And again, what is forgivable and what is not in relation to this is starting to get spelled out. You know, and there are some guidelines for that. So as you're doing some research, some of this might not forgivable, just being we don't have to pay that back. That's loan is forgiven. It's not a penalty to you. So here's a couple things that have come up. I'm just going to kind of read it for where it is. So can you apply for both loans? Let's start with that. So can we apply for both the payroll projection and there's a lot of other things going on out there. So can we apply for both? April.
Yeah, so you can apply for the emergency disaster recovery loan and the paycheck protection loan. You just can't use them for the same purpose. So, you know, if you applied for the PPP loan and said, I'm going to use that to cover May's payroll, well, then you can't say in the emergency disaster recovery that you're going to use it for May's payroll. Could you say you were going to use it for April's payroll? I think so. But you couldn't use it for the same period of time.
Right. Here's another question. We know that the payroll protection talks about 2.5 times payroll. Does that include employees and 1099 workers? Everyone on our team now is an employee, but last year we had a time when we had 1099 people as well, because I know what they're looking back at is when you're gathering this, we have to look back at some history. So maybe now we're all employees, but what the period we're looking at, we had some 1099s in there. How would you interpret that, April?
I think I would encourage you just to show them math. You know, I think when you meet with your banker and you tell them that, you know, these folks were 1099 and we've made some corrections in how we run our business and now they're employees and now they're on payroll. Certainly you'd be able to show the banker that they're on payroll now. And so I think that's what I would do. Will it work? I'm not sure, but I think I would show them that information.
Yeah. 1099s you can add in to what that monthly payroll is. Tip income can be added in, but please understand, whatever you're going to add in, it's got to be documented.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't even bother if you don't have documentation on how much people were paid or how much they received in tips. It's got to be, you got to prove that this happened.
And
So
this
the cleaner
is a
your books.
situation where it's really, really important. I know you can't fix it now, but it's an opportunity that if you're not doing reporting tip income right now is the opportunity for you to do some research about that and start doing it now or when you get back to work, because I'm sure that some of your folks that are on unemployment are finding out their unemployment isn't as much as they would like it to be if you haven't been requiring them to report tip income. So I don't want to get on my soapbox on that too much, but that tip income is really important.
So
You'll have to fight over, we'll have to fight over the soapbox on that one.
Right. So,
Okay.
Boy, what you're saying, April, is if we'd have been reporting that as we should, that would be a benefit to us?
Right.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we won't go, you're right. Let's not go down the road. Another question, and I think we have this, and Neil, if you've got it in front of you, I don't have it directly in front of me, but the question is around, when it comes to looking at the total payroll expense, we know it's 2.5 times. That's been already outlined. Do we know what parameters, again, they're looking at? Because the question says, I've heard January through December, but I've heard January through this time period. What's that time period again? I know that I've seen that. I just don't know it off the top of my head. Do we know what that time period is?
I've seen calendar year 2019, but I've also seen February, or it's January 15 until February 15, 2020. The government is using February 15th, 2020 as D-Day. That's when the crisis, in as far as the date, that's when it began. So they know your financials are going to be horrible after February 15th, or if you had a good February and a good portion of March, they, you know, whenever you wind up shutting down, they know that your financials are going to take a dive. They also know that the payroll is going to change. So they're trying to come up with a window of time that that would capture what a quote unquote normal payroll would be. One thing that's very important about the Payroll Protection Program, the participating SBA banks they're being given the authority to approve or reject a loan without having to go back to SBA for approval. Also, when it's time to do the apply for forgiveness, you will go back to the lending bank, not the SBA, and you will apply for the loan to be forgiven. And then you're going to have to meet whatever the parameters are, which now we're seeing that 75% of that should have been used for payroll purposes. But in order to speed the delivery of funds to small business, they're getting it out of the SBA decision-making process, and it's the bank that you have a relationship with, hopefully, that will be making the determination. And again, it's all, what was your payroll, whatever period of time they're going to look at, it gets documented, and they'll make that decision, and you should have a pretty good idea of how much that loan is going to be for you.
The only thing that I would add to that is if you were new to opening your business and you don't have, you know, the prior year's payroll, they're going to use January 1 of 20 until that February 29th of 2020. So, you know, if you don't have really historical back into 19, from what I read, it's going to be, you know, those first full months of 2020. And for a lot of our salons, they were having record years for the first couple months. So,
Right.
Hey, we were incredible January and we were successful like a couple of weeks ago.
One thing, yes, absolutely. One thing that's coming up that I also see is some time pieces on this. One thing I can say is through reading through some research this morning, it appears as though that the banks and the thing and with this whole payroll protection is really going to be something they can start to review, I believe, on starting April 3rd, seems to be the date that's set out there. So again, get in touch.
Which we found out is not tomorrow.
Yes, which we found out is not tomorrow. So that would be on Friday. It looks like the soonest they'll be starting to, I guess I'll use the word starting to maybe process or accept applications. One thing that came up on there, do I do this online? How's this work? It is my understanding right now, and everything that I've read in our discussions so far that we've had, is the fact that this has to be done through your bank. The SBA, you were able to do some of that online through SBA directly. This to me is something that you have to work through a bank that is approved by the SBA to give these payroll protection, to give this out. So you have to find a bank that does that. That might not be your bank, but it may be. So, but you need to reach out to your individual institutions. And again, a lot of articles that we read are simply this. You know, we're trying to answer as many questions as we have, but a lot of the articles also state that even the banks are saying they're learning about this in the same speed that we are learning about this, about how they should accept applications, about what that process looks like. If you read the Washington Post article, it does say that they are looking for very quick turnaround on these. So I believe that one thing that is a win about this is there seems to be a high sense of urgency to get money flowing and get people into this, because as we know, if we can restore this, we can keep our economy starting to move along a little bit. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a heightened sense of urgency around getting, not keeping these lengthy, that this is a quicker process in some ways as far as this process goes. But April 3rd seems to be the date that they're starting to process, or I should say accept, from what I've read. And you have to do this through an approved SBA lender bank, and it cannot be done, by my understanding at this point, this could change all tomorrow morning, but by my understanding at this point, is not done through an online site.
I would add too to Michael to that, the Treasury Department did put out a application form, as well as some instructions for that application form. My guess is that that got put out on the Treasury website about the same time that the banks got it. So it's pretty fresh. I think it was last night about 4:30 when I saw it. So I can get that link to you, or I think Neil maybe has that link already.
Yeah, there is a copy that you can download, a PDF that you can begin filling out on your computer. You can start filling in the blanks that's on the SBA site. So you can do that. One last thing, and then we need to move on to the other loans. For those of you that are a little more savvy with bank loans, the forgiveness piece, usually when principal is forgiven, it will come to you as income that would be taxable. They've waived all that, so whatever's forgiven, it's gone. It doesn't go against, it doesn't show up as income. You're not going to get
no 1099, no tax.
1099. Thank you.
Yep.
And I would also recommend that if you are interested in this program, get in the queue, contact your bank, let them know that you're interested, ask them what they suggest. And, you know, I had talked to my banker about it, and I already got a link and filled out what would be a traditional online application with the bank, but I specified payroll protection program, and I'm in the queue. That's all I want to know, because I want to make sure that all of our people at Strategies who are working hard can get full pay. So get in the queue, go download the app. It's a very simple application. Get it done.
And can I add just one thing, Neil, on that? You know, I kind of shared this thought that I had about waiting to take the funds. You know, I am not this is not my specialty in being SBA loan person. So please talk to your advisor about that. I'd hate for you to do something you shouldn't do and then think that it's my fault. So please talk to your people to make sure that you can do that. So.
All right. We're going to go to the disaster loan, the SBA disaster loan, and give us some of the distinctions on that, April.
Yeah, so the EIDL loan is kind of what it's called, the Emergency Disaster Recovery Loan. That came out as part of phase 1 of the coronavirus stimulus. And what it is it's a long-term loan. The maximum term on that loan is 30 years. At a maximum interest rate of 3.75%, so 3.75%. There is a deferral of payment of a minimum of 6 months, possibly a year, and so that's good. That one can take approximately 3 weeks to process, is what they're saying. I would guess it could get bogged down a little bit more because of all the people that are applying for it. But the really cool thing about this emergency disaster recovery loan is, as part of phase 3 of the CARES Act, they rolled out this emergency $10,000 immediate advance that you can get. So when you apply for the emergency disaster recovery loan, my understanding is if within a few days you get an email back and you can take a $10,000 immediate advance that you can use to pay for immediate expenses. it doesn't have to be repaid if you're denied for the loan, or if you use it for payroll, I think. So, and it can be wrapped into the PPL loan or the Paycheck Protection Plan if you decide that you want to go that route instead. So this might be your opportunity to get money fast, $10,000 fast to help you out.
And I believe I'm looking at. I believe that's been raised to 25,000.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
so and yeah, so you can. They're saying fast turnaround. It will be repaid in full or in part by the proceeds of the SBA Disaster Loan.
Mhm.
So that'll get cleaned up. But
Yeah,
you need
see,
to.
things are changing so fast. Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, the yeah. Well, it was 10,000 the other day. The other thing is you have to fill out the application online with SBA. I know that there
Mhm.
were many people that were hitting that site and starting to fill out the applications before we found out about the Paycheck Protection Program. The site was having tremendous issues. People couldn't get in. People would get it started. Then they refreshed the whole thing and everything got lost and you had to start over again. From what I'm hearing, they've made it a little easier to get through the process. But again, that is applied through SBA Direct. You don't go to a bank for the disaster loan. And the other piece in the SBA disaster loan is they will use their own formula to determine how much money they will loan you. So
Mhm.
it's not, you know, enter desired loan amount here. That's, you can't do that. The only
One of
one,
the really cool things, though, about the loan right now is that most SBA loans require a personal guarantee, and they're waiving that requirement if that loan's under 200,000. So, you know, that's a pretty big deal, I think.
yeah, no personal guarantee is a huge deal.
Mhm.
And from what we've been told in conference calls with SBA, that they do prefer collateral. If you do not have any collateral or very little collateral, they do urge people to still apply. That may or may not impact how much money they're willing to give you because you can't put up any collateral behind it. But just know SBA has always been very demanding about collateralizing whatever money they put out there, and you would too if you were the SBA.
Yeah,
So
you know, the other thing they've almost always had is prepayment penalties, and they've waived that. So if you pay it off early, there isn't a penalty. So, you know, this is an opportunity maybe to get lower interest financing because we don't know really when the end of this downturn is, and have it available to you. And if you end up not needing it and you just pay it back, well, then there's no prepayment penalty.
yeah,
So,
and again, I don't know if it's changed. I don't think it has, but if you get the disaster loan, you have 12 months before you have to make any payments. And then after that, the interest kicks in. It can go out to 30 years. It's low interest. It's a very, very, very solid loan program. The only issue that you're going to have to deal with there is that you don't know how much you're going to get. That's where the difference is with the paycheck protection. Michael.
Yeah, couple things coming up. So let's see here. Actually, I got three. One is around the EIDL. Do you know, the question is that forgivable? And I don't know if we know that
no,
information or not.
no, it's not. The emergency piece of it, the 10 or the 25 that Neil said, I'd originally heard that that could be possibly forgiven if you used it for payroll and you were denied the loan, but I'm not sure if that changed. Neil, do you know if that changed with
I've
the
read
number going up?
I've read that there was a little blurb in there, and again, I don't think it was on the SBA site. It may have been, like I said, I've got sites all over the brain here. But there is some of it can be forgivable if it is used for payroll. Again, this is where you need to have guidance. You need to have someone that you can trust and turn to that can help you navigate this. And you know, 10,000 is it's a lot of money, but when you're the business owner, it's kind of hard to get that thing to stretch very far. 25,000, yep, that's a nicer chunk of money, but you know, 25,000 with, I know a lot of the clients that we work with at Strategies, and we share a lot of the same clients, April. You know, 10 or 20,000 is, you know, it'll get you through maybe a piece of the rent and
Right.
and not much more.
Right.
Another,
Right.
so another question is, do we know, questions being asked around actually with these, which is actually, I guess, a very natural question when we're talking about loans. Do we know the impact or how like something such as a low credit score may impact our ability to receive, to acquire some of these loans that are out there?
My understanding is they're being very lenient with that. However, I will tell you that on this PDF application that I grabbed from the Treasury site last night for the PPL loan anyway, if you have a prior bankruptcy, and I don't remember how long ago it was, if you answer that you've had that you will not be approved. So let me just read the question out loud here, because it says, is the business or any owner presently suspended, debarred, proposed for debarment, declared ineligible, voluntarily excluded from participation in this transaction by any federal department or agency, or presently involved in any bankruptcy? So if you answer yes, the loan will not be approved.
All right. All right.
So.
Another question about, I think this is in conjunction with the SBA Disaster Loan. What exactly do I need to include in the cost of goods sold section?
Are these Strategies clients asking these questions?
Well, it's a lot of everybody asking questions.
Okay. Do you want me to take that one? I feel like you guys could take that one too.
Yeah, you know, give us what you got, April.
Go
That's
for
why
it.
we got you here, man. We want you to do some
Okay.
heavy lifting.
We'll tell you if you're
Come
right or
on.
wrong.
I was going to say.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Coach training, April.
Woohoo.
Coach training.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make fun of the question. I just, yeah. So cost of goods sold is really what are the costs that you have to incur in order to do business? So if you think about that, in order to provide a service in your salon, you have to have professional back bar, you have to have payroll for your technicians, and you have to have payroll taxes, right? You're obviously going to have merchant credit card fees to process those transactions, and you're going to have the cost of the retail that you sell. So those are the things that I would put out there as your cost of goods sold items. You guys have anything to add?
What do you think, Mike? How'd she do?
I think she did a great job. It's
You
like she's
nailed it,
done this
April.
before. Like she's done it
Nailed it.
before.
You can
I passed.
Here's
you're
here's one
still
last
a CPA.
Thank you.
Here's
Certified
one
Canadian
last
what?
yeah. So here's one last thing that I think actually does seem to come up a lot just through the chat in general. With the things that we're talking about here, these bigger ideas around the Paycheck Protection Program and the SBA disaster relief loans and all these things, a lot of questions come up around state-to-state differences. Are you aware of things that might vary state to state as it applies to what the discussion has been and in the areas that we're talking about?
So the PPL loan and the EIDL loan, those are federal programs. I don't think that you're going to run into state-by-state issues there. Certainly, and if you're in a higher capita area, you're going to have more banks that are SBA approved in order to help you there. You know, I live in a smaller area of the country, and so there aren't as many SBA approved loan banks. There are some, but if you live in areas of New York or Los Angeles or, you know, bigger metropolitan areas, you're going to have a little bit of a leg up because you're going to be able to find those banks. Really, the state things that differ are going to have to do with whether or not you can defer state income tax, state payroll taxes. Your unemployment is going to be in that realm. So, but not these programs, as far as I understand. Neil, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing that we've seen in that area, it really has more to do with unemployment,
Mm-hmm,
because that's state regulated.
mm-hmm.
You know, unemployment has the work share work program. It's different in every state. That's what we're finding. So
Yep.
when it gets into unemployment, you're going to have to see, you know, what is your, you know, how is your state administering that? One question, just while we're on unemployment, I'm going to pose a question if nobody has, and I don't know if you know, April. Everyone's like, well, geez, all these people are unemployment. What's going to happen to my unemployment rate? And my guess would be that the way there's been so much leniency to not penalize businesses and individuals, that it may not impact your rate that you pay. But the unemployment funds, they're going to be pretty much wiped out.
So
So
the phase 3 of the stimulus plan, the federal government provided additional funds to help states through that problem. I agree with you, Neil. I don't think it's going to impact your rates that you have to pay. However, you know, let's be realistic here. At some point, we're going to have to pay for all of this. I'm not really sure what that looks like or where or how that happens, but you know, I'm loving the fact that the Fed can just print money, but I would guess at some point something might come of it.
yeah, we're going to be dealing with this for many, many years to come. Financially, you know, yeah, they don't have just printing presses. Every time they print something, it's got to be backed by something, and country's going to run up a lot of debt through this. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in what the future looks like once we get through this.
I think that, you know, one of the things that we have to think about, and let's put it into perspective, you and I have a wonderful opportunity to be on this phone call with these people. And it is an amazing industry to be a part of. And everyone that's in the beauty industry that I've had the honor of being involved with are wonderful people. And everybody's going to band together. And whatever it is that has to happen, we're going to do it together. So, you know, there's definitely struggles happening right now, but this is our opportunity to show our true strength, and we'll just work through it together. That's what we always do.
One of the things that, because we've been so involved with it at Strategies, and I think it's why Strategies and Kopsa Otte get along so well together, is, you know, there's got to be a financial responsibility that every business owner has. I want to just put out a word of caution to all owners that are listening, and employees as well. If you have not been diligent about maintaining clean financials, and you know what I mean by clean, whatever comes in gets reported, whatever goes out gets reported. If you haven't been keeping current on your financials, if you haven't been keeping your balance sheet clean and up to date, and understand what is the balance sheet telling you about your business versus your profit and loss statement. And more than anything, how are you managing cash as it comes through the business? Because you can't, if you're looking at your bank balance multiple times a day, and that's what you use to gauge cash flow, you're in trouble. The bank balance is not a gauge on how much cash you have, because you don't know what's going to disappear as scheduled payments hit and checks clear. So when you start looking at getting uh, 10,000, 25, 50, 100, couple $100,000 in loan money, even though the government is saying interest rates are going to be very low and terms are going to be very lenient, you're going to have to get that money to stretch, and you're going to have to learn and master and lock into some very basic financial disciplines like the cash flow planning that we've been pounding owners with, for over 26 years. Um, on our town hall meeting last Friday, we introduced our 13-week recovery plan. It's a special website that we created really, really fast. But there's one spreadsheet in there. You got to look at the instructions if you sign up for it. We have links for, actually, if Eric, you can put some links to the 13-week recovery plan in here. It's a free site. You got to sign up. All we ask is first name, last name, email address. I will tell you that if you signed up last night into this morning and you didn't get your login information, we had a glitch with the program. That is all coming to you, but go in and it's a very simple spreadsheet. You got to watch the instructions on how to create the spreadsheet and how to fill it in. But it's 13 weeks and it breaks everything down into bite size. It's free. Use it. Make as many what ifs as you want. And it's something that we're doing for the industry. It's already a tool that our coaching clients have in our coaching platform that we call the Command Center. So if you're a coaching client and you're active and you have a Command Center account, don't worry about this other site. You already have it.
What a great thing to offer, Neil. I think that's wonderful that you guys are doing that. And I would challenge everybody that's listening to do that and be prepared to have that 13-week shift if it has to shift, because, or adding weeks to it, because we just don't know yet. So I think that's really great. And don't forget about taxes when you're doing that, because, what happens sometimes is, taxes are always due. If you have quarterly estimates, they're due every quarter, but all of a sudden we don't have the money. So, make sure that you're making some plans to have that money set aside too, so that you can pay that and it doesn't become a stressor for you.
I guess one last thing that I want to throw out, and we'll get Michael back on because I'm sure there's more questions. What if you can't get a loan? And, what if you don't have cash? I tried to explain this in the town hall last Friday. You can go a long ways before you have to close your doors. Don't throw in the towel. There is plenty of life left in your business, even when it looks like the cash is gone. A lot of the payments that you have to make to keep your business functional and open can be deferred right now, even if the people that you're talking to are not very nice and do not want to cooperate. I've heard landlords that have been nice, and I've heard landlords that say, hey, you got to pay, But in the state of Connecticut, there's a no evict law that went out. You can't get evicted from your home, can't get evicted from your business. Loans are being pushed back. I know American Express will give you one period without any payments and no penalties. So you can last a long time. The only unknown we have right now is when can you open the doors, get your people back in, start generating cash again, and you have to have a cash flow plan so the money that starts coming in just doesn't start leaking out through all kinds of little holes that so many businesses have. Be disciplined. This is a chance to clean up how you run your business and how you manage money and how do you create profit and how you're going to be able to pay down all these loans even if the interest is low. Got to get your financial disciplines in place.
let me jump in with something that, again, we're getting a lot of, just so you guys know, a lot of interaction as happens when we have, roughly 400 people, right now hanging out with us. So
They
that's
usually
been
have all these
awesome.
other conversations
Those
that have nothing
sidebars.
to do with
Those
with
sidebars.
God.
So it's great to see all the action happening in the chat. Like I said, trying to get a lot of questions answered just directly that way. I know we certainly haven't scratched the surface of all of the questions that come up, but there is one that seems to be that I'm going to go back to a little bit. That does, I think, seem to get a lot of likes, and I think it's a great one to put out there. So if you've already applied, this is applying for some of the loans. If you already applied for a loan and that was at the level when they had it at $10,000, I think that's that grant, and we applied for that grant that they were doing $10,000, but then they upped the amount to $25,000. Do you know if you need to reapply? If you, like, let's say, for example, hey, when it first came out, it was 10,000. I put my application in, and then all of a sudden, 3-4 days later, I've already submitted all my work, but now they upped the level, they upped the ceiling to 25,000. Do you know if there needs to be a reapplication for that or not?
I don't know the answer to that. I would guess that if they applied and submitted that loan a few days ago, they would have gotten a response back. Because my understanding from a couple of our clients anyway is after they submitted the EIDL loan application, within a few days, they got the email back where they could request the immediate advance. So, but we don't have any clients that have gotten the immediate advance yet. Neil, can you add or not?
Yeah, I haven't heard about what you can do. I would imagine that once you've been notified about the advance, then you have an opportunity, because you're already in there, to say, I understand that it's been raised to 25,000. What do I have to do to increase it from 10 to 25? I don't know if applying again is going to help you. It's still one of the rules of thumb today is apply for everything and keep applying till something happens. But you also don't want to complicate it. And I would just, if you've already applied, I would wait and see, and then ask, what you can do. Maybe they'll say you need to apply again, and they'll see that you have the 10 and they can give you another 15. I'm not sure they could even answer the questions right now because everything is changing so fast.
Here's another one, Neil and April. Maybe if we could just kind of clear up maybe some of the nuances between when we say the word grant, but we also say this is an advance, what can be forgiven, kind of the implications of what some of that language that we're reading out there. If you could help us, maybe just give us a little bit more clarity on just the language that's buzzing around us from that standpoint.
You're pointing at Michael. You're not
No,
pointing
I was
at
going to
me.
say, no, not on my screen. He's pointing at you.
Wherever April, wherever you are, I'm pointing at you.
Well, when I think of a grant, I think of that being forgiven money. And when I think of forgiven, I think of grant. So in this case, that's what I would be thinking about. I think there is that this advance, this immediate advance that they're calling a grant, or they're calling it money that could be forgivable. That's what it is. Now, the PPL loan is not a grant. That is, to me, that is, you have some requirements that you will have to fulfill, and you will have to provide documentation in order for that to be forgiven. So to me, that's not a grant.
I heard grant last week. I've read a lot about grants last week. I'm not hearing a lot about grants this week. And I think it's just, as the information comes out, it gets more clarified. I think the key point here of this entire conversation is the CARES Act and federal government has really stepped up. Is it going to be enough money? $2 trillion, is it not enough? But they really stepped up to get money into the economy, get it to individuals, get money to small business owners to keep this economy from imploding. and go for a loan, even if you don't have great credit. Um, it's worth it to apply. They've relaxed so many restrictions. I mean, they just, if you have lawsuits, if you've been arrested, if you're a terrorist, if whatever some of this other stuff is, if you file bankruptcy, it's going to be hard to get a loan. It would be hard to get a loan anyway. But they've made it very, very easy, and they've been very lenient. Interest rates are very attractive, and I think even if you get into a loan, a lot of these things are probably going to become negotiable as you get further down if you need to extend the payment out. Right now, the key is finding out when you can open. It's disheartening to hear some people are now saying they can't open till at some point in June. I'm praying that we could start seeing parts of the country open up in May, and but May 1st, I don't know if that's doable. We're probably looking at middle of May. But once we know when you can get your doors open and safely service clients, for you, your staff, and the sake of your clients, then we can really start getting into putting a plan that you have in place, because now the dates are more real. Up until we know what that is, it is very, very, very hard to try and plan out what the future is going to be like. It's the big unknown. When will we be able to open? Another thing I just want to point out is we've been seeing it on our idea exchange discussion group. Someone actually posted a screenshot of a message that a client sent saying, is there any way we could do like a secret service? And I can come into the salon with nobody knowing and get something done. Or could you come to the house? I'm sorry, but that is really, it's putting the heart of our industry in a really difficult place, because as an industry, we want to say yes to our clients, very compassionate, and you got to keep your heart out of this. If someone's asking, come to my house, I've heard things, well, we can do hair extensions and they're, it could be $500. The money versus your health versus well-being of the client. You don't know what's been going on in their world. Stay home. Don't open the doors for a client. If you've been ordered to close, don't have people going to a client's home. It's just putting yourself in jeopardy, and stay home, save lives.
I've heard too that there are some states that are threatening some penalties on licensing if you do stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. So I would keep that in mind too. I don't know. You certainly wouldn't want to lose your forever livelihood by just helping a client out.
It's not.
So be careful.
It's not worth it. And there's a time to say yes, and there's a time to say no. We cannot do that. Just do it respectfully. I guess one of the last things that I want to throw out here, because I know we're just over an hour, the further this goes, and you can kind of see in all the discussion groups and whatnot, patience starts to fade, kindness starts to fade. People get more direct when, even if and it's not intended, but things can be said because of the heat of the moment and the stress that we're all under. And today is April 1st. And, how are we going to hold it together to get through the month of April? Because we're going to be closed for the month of April. And the pressure is going to build. We need to be patient. We need to be kind. We need to be considerate. If you're on our discussion group, and if it gets out of hand, we're going to lock the discussion down. And if you get really out of hand, we'll not only delete your comment, but there's this little thing in our discussion group that says delete and block user. Please don't make us do that. But if you're disrespectful, you know, don't play in our house. We love all of you, and we want to see everyone to get through this. For what it's worth, Strategies is, we have all of our coaches working more than full time, trying to help not only our customers, but people that are contacting us saying, I need help, I don't know what to do, my business, my employees, loans, blah, blah, blah. We're doing everything we can. And like all of you, if you don't have money, we don't have money. So we're working really, really hard. We can't shut down our company. We're a business that needs to stay open. And we're trying our best to do everything we can for you. And I know the same is happening at Kopsa Otte. We just have to do it from home. We're all on a staycation.
A staycation.
A staycation.
I almost had a glass of wine for this conversation, but I thought that might not be a good idea. So I decided to wait. But I would cheers all of you if I had it, because I know you're strong and wonderful business people. And so just keep working hard. I want to grab something Neil said, and that was, he was cautioning you to be careful about taking these loans and then not being able to pay back or have a plan in place to pay them back. There are some other things that are offered in these stimulus plans. You know, one is to put off paying payroll taxes and not pay them in 20 and then pay them back in 21 and 22. I would caution really anybody to do that. I mean, you have it, it's available to you, but man, if you get into a position where you're behind on payroll taxes and you can't pay it back, that's a problem. So, you know, sometimes things that people offer you are just too good to be true. I think this one might be one of those. Again, if you're in a position where you absolutely have to take advantage of it, I get it. But, you know, you need to have in your cash flow plan a plan to be putting money back into a savings account or something so that you have the money to pay it when it's due. So just be cautious out there with all the things that are available to you.
Okay, last thing. We put this out there yesterday, early yesterday. We have a program that we started in January 2019 called On Live. These are full day live presentations. If you've been part of them, you know, Michael is one of our stars, and they're in most of them. But the On Lives are full day presentations. We've made 6 of the On Live presentations that we feel would be most helpful to all of you available free. Eric probably has already put the link for the On Live, the free On Lives in the chat. Click on that and there'll be instructions on how to get into the On Live site and access 6 of the On Lives that we selected for you. Again, it's what we're doing to play our part to help you get through this and get your doors open again.
Yes, I agree. You know, take advantage of the resources. And I think just to kind of wrap up and kind of bring this session to a close. And again, we are obviously going to continue to do many more of these. And like I said, you know, April's a great friend. So maybe we'll even see April back again in a week or two. Who knows? But we are doing what you guys are doing. We're adapting to situations. We're trying to meet you guys where you guys are and the information that you guys are asking for. So we're going to utilize all of our friends and resources that we can to bring you the best possible information. And I think, April, what you said at the end there is so, I'm glad that you made that statement just around, you know, sometimes if it looks too good to be true with some of these things, it's great, you know, that there is so much pro-action out there. The government, I think, is trying to do what's, you know, the best it can when it comes to providing money to us and relief to us. At the same time, not everything is the right decision for your company. And I think like what April said is just such a wise way to kind of wrap up and end the day. So take advantage of what you heard today. Hopefully this, and I think it did from looking at the comments, started to give us all a little bit more clarity. Still a lot of questions out there, but that's where we're going to keep hanging with you. As we know more, we're going to give you guys the information as well. So we look forward to continuing to interact with you guys. I got you, Neil. We'll throw it back to you here in a second. Take advantage of the free OnLive that Neil mentioned, because again, that's resources now. This is the time to get your businesses stronger and take advantage of this time to strengthen your businesses, and even look at like, so what you're doing right now to start to say, how do I strengthen my business overall for the future? So on my part, I will say thank you guys so much, and I'll throw it back to you, Neil, and then April, if you want to just any final words, that'd be great.
April, not you, April 8th at at 1 p.m. It is a Wednesday, because I'm looking at my calendar and it says Wednesday next to 8. We are doing our third town hall meeting. Our town hall meetings address whatever the current situation is, or certain strategies that you should use for your company and preparing to open. So we're going to do that at 1 p.m. Eastern. That will, and Eric, will that be a Facebook Live? Michael?
I think, yes, I can
Yes, it
almost
will be.
guarantee
Yes.
it will be.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. April, any final words?
Well, as is typical, after I have wonderful experiences with strategies, people want to know how to get a hold of me. So I'll tell you right now that we are crazy busy with our current clients. If you have questions, probably the best way to ask us questions or to get knowledge from us about tax changes is to sign up for our newsletter. It's free. We send it out at least once a week. Right now we've been sending it out a lot. And that, if you just text, and maybe Eric or Michael, somebody can put this in the comments. If you text the keyword KOA News, and that's all one word, KOA News, to the number 22828, you can sign up. Again, it's 22828. The other way, you can go back and look at old newsletters, which might be really good right now, is go to kopsaotte.com, and it's KOPSAOTTE.com, and go to newsletters, and you can look at all of our prior newsletters. So obviously, we're always looking for really great clients, but if you call my office right now, you may not hear back from me till May. So, so please take advantage of the free resources that we have, at least right now. And I'm hoping that we have a strategies team-based pay conference here in the fall, and I'll get an opportunity to meet some of you there, and hopefully things will be balancing back out by then.
Awesome. April, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll kick it back to Eric for any final last words, Eric.
Yeah, April, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, we're huge fans, and you guys are like family to us. So we're happy to have you guys here. Thank you, Michael and Neil and everybody. We put links for Kopsa Otte for you guys to check out them. We put in links for the free 6 OnLives, as well as to sign up for the 13-week cash flow recovery plan. For some reason, the little preview icons aren't showing up correctly in the feed, but the links do work. So if you just click on those, boy, I have a lot of sun on my face. If you click on those, that'll take you there. But please take advantage of those. Those OnLives are they're full day trainings, and you've got access to 6 of those now for 30 days. That's like $1,800 worth of trainings that we do. We do one topic each month in those OnLives. We're doing another live event starting on Monday with Michael, all on salon and spa consultations that keep clients coming back. But you guys, we picked out 6 of our most popular topics. They're archived in the replay. Just click those links. If you just scroll through the comments here, you can sign up for absolutely free, and you get access to those 6 archived replays for the next 30 days. And again, please take advantage of the 13-week cash flow planning tool. That's going to give you guys a solid plan on getting your cash flow plan together, because you've got to have one in place so you can make informed decisions on your opening and beyond. This is a tool we built specifically for you guys to do this right now during your downtime. It's absolutely free to sign up. As Neil mentioned earlier, if you signed up, I think from midnight till about a couple hours ago, you may not have gotten the email. That issue has been addressed. We're going to resend out a reminder to all of you on that. You can always just go back and re-enter if you want. And when you do sign up, there's a half-hour tutorial video that we put together in there as well. So make sure that you watch that. Otherwise, you might not know what to do with the tool and how to set it up. So make sure you watch that tutorial. Those are just
got nothing else to do.
Yes.
Come on, you got nothing else to do. So watch. It's another thing to watch. There you go.
And last but not least, if you haven't already, and actually I'm just going to go and grab the link here. Make sure that you are a member of our Salon and Spa Business ID Exchange Facebook group, because our team is working tirelessly to give you guys lots of information on how to work through this whole process on many different things, whether it's your cash flow plan. We did a great video the other day on how to keep your team involved and do some nice little treats for them. So I will put that in the link right now. There we go. And with that said, I think we are good to go. Thank you so much to everybody. We really appreciate
Play nice
you
in
being
the
here.
idea exchange, folks.
Yes.
Be kind to one another. We'll get through this. April, take care. All my best to you. Say hi to the beaver that lives behind your house.
Will do. You too.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much,
you.
everybody. We appreciate it.
Stay well.